A hatchback or maybe a crossover? Why not both? This is the Subaru XV or Crosstrek in some markets, a car for those really active and dynamic people you see in car brochures. What's it like? Let's find out. This episode is brought to you by Carvago. Be smart, choose your car online with Carvago. Let me clarify that in this episode we're talking about the 2022 model year. In autumn 2022, Subaru announced the third generation, which looks very similar to the second gen, has almost identical dimensions, and the main differences are in the interior, where there will be a large infotainment display like we saw on the new Outback. The XV model name used in Europe refers to the Impreza XV on which the car was originally based, but in the US it's called the Crosstrek, and as of 2023 this, or rather the facelifted or new generation model, will be globally called the Crosstrek, and maybe it's for the better, because for many years I wondered why it's called the Roman 15. Subaru promises that in the new generation everyone will be able to experience the e-Boxer engine, a 2-liter mild hybrid. And that's actually bad news. More on that in a moment. Meanwhile, the dimensions. The XV Crosstrek may look like a compact hatchback, but it's bigger than the MINI Countryman, Range Rover Evoque or the Toyota Corolla Cross. It also has the highest ground clearance of 22 centimeters, and its off-road capabilities can only be matched by the Evoque, although something tells me that the roughest terrain the Range Rover sees is a pebble access road to a golf course. Unfortunately, the lithium-ion mild hybrid battery located under the boot floor makes the boot capacity a mere 340 liters, and you get more on the Volkswagen Polo these days. But let's say that the active and dynamic people from the brochure will just drop the seats and use the entire 1,173 liters for their active gear, or put some of that gear on the roof rack, because unlike me, they really use their rack. By the way, the length of the cargo space with the seats folded is 183 centimeters, and the width between the wheel arches is 109 centimeters. So if you want to spend the night in the car, for whatever reason, you can. Looking for a car for family, fun or work? Carvago.com is the place for you. Carvago is a modern platform with vetted cars from all over Europe. You can buy a car from the comfort of your home and Carvago will deliver it to your doorstep. Carvago.com features more than 700,000 cars from vetted dealers across Europe. You select a car on Carvago. Carvago sends out its experts and presents you with Car Audit, a full report on the actual condition of the car. Car Audit keeps track of 270 technical points, includes photos as well as final evaluation by a Carvago certified technician. Next, you simply select financing and delivery options, you sign a deal with Carvago, and Carvago buys the vetted car for you. You have 14 days after delivery to test drive and return the car without giving a reason. The price also includes up to 12 months warranty depending on the region. So, what's your car from Carvago going to be like? In the back there is good legroom, okay-ish headroom. There are door pockets, but just big enough for my water bottle, and there's also an armrest with cup holders, but no air vents or power outlets. There is instead a sizable tunnel, but this is an all-wheel drive car after all. The front, the cockpit feels very compact. Now, to be fair, I got into the XV from a Kia Niro EV, which has an airy cockpit, but here the sensation is closer to that in the X-Seed. I feel as if there's more space behind the wheel in my Countryman, but in the Subaru I always feel like I'm getting into a car that's smaller than it looks from the outside. Now, the dials are still analog with a small display between the tach and the speedo dials. There's a lot of buttons on the steering wheel, including one for the heated steering wheel, available only on the top platinum trim, along with the sunroof. Now, while I don't need the sunroof, I don't want a car without a heated steering wheel. anymore, ever. On top of the dash there is an extra screen with some more information from the onboard computer, as well as a view from the front camera if you need it. Actually, I don't know what's the point of having many of the information here repeated here in the instrument cluster, but it is what it is. Below is the infotainment system with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto wired. You have to fumble down there to find the USB-A ports. They're at the very bottom, and in addition these are low output, I think, because a couple of times I had this situation where the phone wouldn't connect or charge. Maybe it was a temporary glitch, but it was like that for several hours one day. Now the higher output, or at least the working charging ports, are under the armrest, where it's also dark and hard to find, and from here you don't get Android Auto connection. The buttons and knobs for AC, climate control, physical, thankfully. Down here by the gear lever we have the X mode button and the heated seats buttons. Now these are like in old Japanese cars. I mean, I've seen these forever. Now the good thing about them is that once you put them on, say in autumn, they stay on like this until you turn them off in the spring. So that's actually pretty good. Now the glove box is average size, but the door pockets are just big enough for my water bottles, at least bigger than the ones in the back. Everything is logical and simple to use. Back in the day, VWs used to be like this, and now we're pretty much down to Subaru, the last of the Mohicans.
Let's start with my diagonal approach test. A few months ago, on a warm, dry day, Subaru Forester with the same e-Boxer drivetrain could barely get up that hill, with two wheels on the diagonal having limited grip. I didn't know what to expect from the XV, especially in the snow, but it turned out the car managed without a hitch. In normal mode, X mode for snow and dirt, and X mode for deep snow and mud. Maybe there was something wrong with the all-wheel drive system in the Forester after all.
And this is where the good news ends, because unless you drive your XV Crosstrek on gravel roads and take advantage of the all-wheel drive capabilities, daily driving this car around the city is pretty much unpleasant, mainly because of the e-Boxer. Now, while in the summer, under optimal conditions, the car can consume as much fuel as the manufacturer promises, it is much worse around 0 degrees Celsius like we have today. In cold weather, the engine doesn't shut off even at standstill and keeps recharging the battery most of the time, because it needs to. As a result, the average fuel consumption is closer to 10 liters per 100 kilometers than the 8 promised. With a 48-liter tank, the range drops very quickly. And to think that the 1.6-liter variant has a 63-liter tank!
For what it's worth, the time from 0 to 100 kilometers per hour is, again, better than promised. Instead of 10.7 seconds, I managed 9.7 seconds in sport mode, just below 10 seconds in smart mode. Hardly breathtaking performance, but it's nice to sometimes get more than what the spec sheet says.
I mean, it's not even proper winter yet, but due to the fact that the engine often recharges the battery, the noise in the cabin is considerable, and that's regardless of the speed. And due to the CVT, I can tell the car is accelerating mainly by the fact that instead of loud inside, it gets very loud inside. I don't know what regions and road conditions Subaru anticipated when designing this engine, but it really can get much colder, and I assume much worse because of it. In cold weather, it would probably be better to just shut the battery off and stop charging it completely. Now, handling. It's what I would expect from an off-road-ish car with a 22 centimeter ground clearance. It rolls a bit in the corners, but it's not too bad. If you recall the early Imprezas, this is nowhere close.
The driver assistance systems are okay, although the XV doesn't get the internal camera monitoring driver attention and using facial recognition to load driver profiles with seat settings. The XV gets an electrically adjustable driver's seat, but there is no memory function and no lumbar support adjustment. At this spec and price level, I consider this a big oversight. Prices of the Subaru XV, soon to be Crosstrek, start at €26,440 for the 1.6-litre petrol Trend model. This 2-litre e-Boxer in platinum trim, which I would only get because it has the heated steering wheel, costs €38,140.
The engine. Any other but the e-Boxer. I'm sure that with whatever 2 or 2.5 litre engine the Crosstrek comes with in the US, this is a great car. Maybe Subaru will tweak the e-Boxer for 23-24 model. For the time being, it's a big no for me. And what do you think about the Subaru XV Crosstrek? Let me know in the comment section below.
If you like my sarcastic, down-to-earth and possibly mildly amusing car reviews, join me every Friday at 3 p.m. Central European Time, and don't forget to subscribe and like this video as it helps me with the YouTube algorithm. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.